There's a quiet moment, the kind that comes after your thoughts have been running all day. You sit down, but your heart keeps pacing. Your mind keeps replaying everything that could go wrong, every deadline, every bill, every conversation that didn't end well. You tell yourself to relax, but peace feels far away. Anxiety has a way of creeping in softly, doesn't it? It whispers that you need to fix everything, that you can't rest until every problem is solved. It convinces you that control is the only way to survive. But there's another voice, gentler, stronger, that says, you were never meant to carry it all. Scripture teaches that God invites us to cast every care on Him because He truly cares for us. That's not just a poetic promise, it's a lifeline. Think about it. The Creator of the universe, the one who designed the stars and sustains the oceans, asks you to hand Him what keeps you awake at night. He doesn't say, handle it first and then come to me. He says, come as you are, even trembling, even uncertain, and let me hold what you can't. So many of us pray but still carry the same weight afterward. We release it with our lips but take it back with our thoughts. We say, God, I trust you. And yet we spend the night trying to predict outcomes. That's not trust, that's survival mode. And survival mode is not the same as peace. Peace is what happens when you stop trying to be your own savior. Peace is the sacred stillness that comes when you realize God never asked you to be strong enough. He asked you to be surrendered enough. Have you ever watched a bird rest on a thin branch? It doesn't trust the branch. It trusts its wings. When the branch bends, the bird doesn't panic. It knows it was made to fly. That's what faith looks like. You don't trust the circumstances beneath you. You trust the one who gave you wings of hope. Your anxiety says, what if I fall? Faith whispers, what if you're carried? There's a promise woven through the story of every believer. When you give your burdens to God, He sustains you. He won't let you collapse under the weight that feels too heavy. That doesn't mean every storm stops instantly, but it does mean you won't face it alone. Maybe that's what you need to remember today. Not that life will suddenly get easier, but that your heart can finally rest in someone bigger than the storm. When you release what you can't control, you make room for the peace that surpasses understanding to enter. Anxiety thrives on what if. Faith lives in even if the answer hasn't come yet, even if the road feels uncertain, even if I can't see the way forward. I will trust the one who holds tomorrow. And when you do that, something shifts. The same weight that once crushed you becomes the very thing that drives you closer to God. The problem doesn't always change, but your posture does. Instead of fighting for control, you start resting in His care. You begin to breathe again. You start to pray differently, not to escape reality, but to see it through His eyes. And somewhere between the prayer and the next breath, you realize that peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of God within them. So take this moment, right now, and breathe out what's been weighing on you. Whisper it if you must. Tell Him what you're afraid of, what you can't fix, what you don't understand. Then let it go. Because when you place it in His hands, you're not losing control. You're giving it back to the one who always had it. And do you know what happens when you truly let God guide you? He becomes the compass that leads you through every storm, even when the path is unclear. Trust doesn't come naturally to anxious hearts. We say we believe, yet our minds race to predict every outcome, as if worrying could protect us. But faith is not built on prediction. It's built on surrender. When Paul wrote about peace that surpasses understanding, He wasn't writing from comfort. He was writing from a place of imprisonment and uncertainty. Still, he said, "Don't be anxious about anything, but bring everything to God, with prayer, with gratitude. Gratitude, even before the answer comes. That's trust in its purest form, because real peace isn't born when life feels stable. Real peace grows when we stop demanding to understand and start choosing to rest. We often imagine trust as closing our eyes and hoping for the best. But biblical trust is different. It's not blind. It's grounded in who God is. It's remembering His faithfulness when your emotions can't feel it. It's looking back and realizing that every time you thought you were alone, grace was already walking beside you. You see, anxiety magnifies what if, but trust magnifies who is. And who is your God? He is the one who saw you before you were formed. He is the one who feeds the birds and clothes the lilies, the one who promised, "If I care for them, how much more will I care for you?" Sometimes we treat trust as a one-time event, like handing God our fears once and moving on. But trust is a daily decision. It's choosing again and again to lay your thoughts before Him. It's waking up each morning and whispering, "God, I still choose you over my fear." There's a quiet strength that grows in that repetition. The strength of someone who no longer needs every answer to feel safe. Picture a child walking with their father through a crowded place. The child doesn't know where they're going, but the father does. The child's only job is to hold his hand. When they lose sight of the path, they squeeze tighter. And that's all it takes. That's what your trust looks like to God. You don't need to know the route. You just need to stay close. And when fear whispers that God has forgotten you, remember, He never lets go first. Every time you come to Him with trembling faith, even the kind that's barely holding on, He calls it precious. Because faith isn't measured by how steady your voice sounds, but by where you turn when your heart shakes. Sometimes we imagine faith as a mountain, but more often it's a seed, small, buried, unseen. It doesn't look like much, yet beneath the soil it's alive. And that's what happens when you choose to trust in the middle of uncertainty. You may not see growth right away, but roots are forming. Roots that will one day anchor you when the winds rise again. So, if you've been waiting for perfect peace before you trust, you'll be waiting forever. Peace doesn't precede trust. It follows it. Trust is the doorway through which peace enters. You might say, "But I've prayed and nothing has changed." Maybe not outside of you, but what about inside? Because sometimes God calms the storm. Other times, He calms His child. And maybe that's the miracle happening even now, that your heart is being steadied in the very place where you used to panic. So don't despise the slow process of trust. Every surrendered moment is building the foundation of a faith that won't break. Every anxious thought you hand to Him becomes a brick in the wall of peace He's constructing within you. You are being shaped into someone who trusts the unseen more than the visible, the eternal more than the temporary. That's what spiritual maturity looks like. Not knowing more, but resting deeper. And when that happens, something shifts in your prayers too. They stop being desperate cries for rescue and start sounding like conversations with a Father you've come to know. "God, I don't understand this season, but I trust you. Lord, I can't see what's next, but I know you're already there." And in that whisper, your heart learns again. He has never failed you yet. So, what would happen if you lived tomorrow as if God truly had everything under control? What if you stopped rehearsing your fears and started remembering His faithfulness? Because when you do, you'll realize. The same hands that shaped the stars are the ones still holding you now, and those hands have never once let go. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when you stop asking God to change the storm and start asking Him to change you within it. That's when peace becomes more than a feeling. It becomes the very air you breathe. Peace is not something you chase, it's something you receive. It's the quiet awareness that God is here, not distant, not delayed, but present in this very breath. You see, worry shouts. It's loud. It keeps you pacing, planning, overthinking. But peace whispers. And you only hear it when you slow down long enough to listen. When Paul spoke of the peace that surpasses understanding, he wasn't talking about a logical calm. He was describing something supernatural, a kind of stillness that guards your heart and mind like a fortress. That peace doesn't come from the absence of pressure. It comes from the presence of God. It's the same peace that allowed Jesus to sleep in the middle of a storm. Waves were crashing, the boat was filling, and the disciples were panicking. But Jesus slept, not because he didn't care, but because he trusted completely. That's what divine peace looks like. It's not denial. It's not pretending the storm isn't real. It's knowing that the one who commands the wind is in the boat with you. And maybe that's where you are right now, in the middle of waves, praying for calm. But what if, instead of asking for the storm to stop, God is inviting you to rest in His presence right there, in the rocking and the noise? The world says peace is what happens when everything finally works out. But heaven says peace is what happens when you realize everything is already in God's hands. That's the difference. The first depends on outcomes. The second depends on relationship. When your peace is rooted in circumstances, it will always be fragile. But when it's rooted in the Creator, the one who never changes, it becomes unshakable. You can walk through a valley and still carry calm in your soul. You can face a future you don't understand and still rest, because peace no longer depends on your surroundings. It flows from your surrender. Have you noticed how anxiety feeds on imagination? It creates pictures of what could go wrong, writing stories that haven't even happened. But peace also paints. It paints a different story. It shows you the hands of God holding tomorrow, shaping it with wisdom and love. Every anxious thought you bring to Him is like a seed exchanged for stillness. You give Him the fear, and He plants faith in its place. You hand Him the question, and He whispers an assurance. I'm still here. And sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't that the mountain moves. It's that you can finally sit beside it and feel at peace. That's when you know something has shifted inside you. You're no longer trying to control everything. You're simply resting in the knowledge that nothing can touch you outside His will. This kind of peace changes how you see others too. When your heart is calm, you start carrying calm wherever you go. You become a voice of reassurance in a world that trembles. You speak slower, listen deeper, and react less, because you've learned that every moment is held by the same God who holds eternity. And here's the beautiful truth. Peace isn't the reward of a perfect life. It's the result of perfect trust. When your heart belongs to God, peace follows like a shadow that never leaves your side. So maybe today the invitation is simple: to let go of striving and simply sit in His presence, to breathe, to be still, to remember that the God who made the universe has not forgotten your name. You are seen, you are loved, you are sustained, and perhaps that's what your soul has been waiting to hear. Not that the situation is solved, but that you are safe in the middle of it. because when peace finally takes root, it doesn't just quiet your thoughts. It redefines your life. It changes how you move, how you speak, how you love. And as peace becomes the atmosphere of your heart, trust becomes your natural rhythm. So, what happens next when peace starts to fill your life from the inside out? You begin to live differently, not from fear, but from faith. Once you begin to live from peace, life doesn't suddenly become simple, but it becomes sacred. You start to notice that the same situations that once shook you now become invitations to trust. The same uncertainty that once drained you now reminds you that you are not in charge. And that is the safest truth you could ever know. Peace changes how you walk through the world. It doesn't remove your responsibilities. It removes your panic. You still work, plan, love, and hope, but you do it with a quiet assurance that your Creator holds the outcome. When you start to live from that place, you stop reacting and start responding. You listen before you speak. You pause before you worry. You pray before you act. Because trust is not passive. It's deeply active. It's choosing over and over again to remember who God is when everything else tries to distract you. There's a moment in the Psalms that says, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you." Notice, it doesn't say He will simply remove the cares. It says He will sustain you. He will strengthen your heart so that even when burdens come, they no longer crush you. And that's what happens when you live from peace. Your capacity grows, not because the problems are smaller, but because your trust is deeper. Have you ever seen a tree that's been through storms? The bark bears scars, but the roots run stronger. That's what peace does. It anchors you. So even if the wind rises, you stay grounded in the soil of faith. When you live from trust, you stop being defined by your storms and start being defined by your source. You no longer say, "I am anxious, I am worried, I am overwhelmed." You begin to say, "I am held, I am sustained, I am guided." This shift changes everything. It changes how you wake up in the morning, with gratitude instead of fear. It changes how you face waiting, with expectation instead of frustration. It changes how you see setbacks, as part of a larger story that's still unfolding under the hands of a faithful God. You realize that peace isn't fragile. It's fierce. It protects your thoughts like armor, and it keeps your emotions from steering your destiny. The world may still spin fast, but you learn to move at heaven's pace. Steady, grounded, full of grace. That's what Jesus meant when He said not to worry about tomorrow. He wasn't promising a life without challenges. He was revealing the secret to freedom. You can face tomorrow because your Father is already there. And isn't that what trust really is? It's living as though God's presence is more real than your fear. It's building your day on promises instead of pressure. When you trust your Creator, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" You start asking, "What if God shows His strength through this?" Every delay, every closed door, every moment that doesn't make sense, they all become part of the masterpiece only He can see. You may not understand the brush strokes, but you can trust the artist. And as you walk with that awareness, something profound happens. Anxiety loses its power. Because peace is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of alignment. When your spirit aligns with your Creator's rhythm, even chaos becomes background sound. You find yourself speaking more gently, forgiving more easily, and worrying less often. Not because you learned a technique, but because your trust has become your new language. You start living not for peace, but from it. you become a reflection of the calm that once felt unreachable. And when people see you, they begin to sense it too. The stillness, the quiet confidence, the certainty that you belong to someone greater. You become, in a way, a living testimony that peace is possible in this noisy world. That's what God does with a surrendered life. He turns your quiet trust into light for others. Your peace becomes contagious. Your stillness becomes a sanctuary. So, what happens next when peace no longer just visits you, but lives in you? That's when your faith starts to overflow, when peace turns into praise. When you finally give your anxieties to God, something sacred happens. It's not dramatic or loud, it's quiet, like dawn after a long night. You feel it in your chest first. That slow exhale that says, I don't have to carry this anymore. That's the beginning of freedom. You realize that the weight you've been holding was never yours to manage. And when you place it in God's hands, it doesn't disappear. It transforms. The problem may still exist, but it no longer owns your peace. Because your peace doesn't depend on what happens around you anymore. It depends on who holds you within. That's the essence of trust. Not knowing how it will all work out, but believing that your Creator already does. Not understanding the plan, but knowing the planner. Trust is saying, even here, even now, God is enough. And as that truth takes root, life looks different. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop trying to control outcomes that only God can shape. Instead, you begin to rest, truly rest, in the rhythm of His presence. When worry knocks, you pray. When fear rises, you worship. When doubt whispers, you remind your heart that it's safe in His hands. That's how trust is built, moment by moment, choice by choice. And here's the mystery. When you live this way, peace is no longer something you visit on Sundays or find only in quiet mornings. It becomes the posture of your soul. You wake up aware that you are not alone. You face your day remembering that grace walks beside you. You lay your head at night knowing the same God who carried you today will meet you again tomorrow. That's what happens when you give your anxieties to God. Your fear turns into faith, your chaos into calm, your worry into worship. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about knowing that even if it's not, He still is. You see, the heart that trusts God stops striving to fix everything and starts resting in the one who can. And as you do, you begin to reflect something the world desperately needs. Steady faith in uncertain times. Because when you live anchored in peace, you become a beacon of it. You show others that it's possible, that peace is not a myth, not a personality trait, but a person. And His name is Jesus. He is the peace that passes understanding. He is the rest your soul has been craving. He is the one who calls you by name and says, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." So, breathe again. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to be strong enough, smart enough, or perfect enough. You just have to be willing to trust. Let God handle what you cannot. Let Him rewrite the story you've been trying to control. Let Him hold what's been breaking your heart. Because His hands know how to heal. And as you do, you'll find yourself walking lighter, smiling easier, sleeping deeper. You'll discover that peace is not just possible, it's promised. That's the kind of life you were made for. Not one ruled by anxiety, but one carried by trust. So today, release the weight. Speak it out loud if you need to. God, I give you what I can't carry. I trust you with what I can't control. Let that prayer be the anthem of your heart. And every time worry returns, don't fight it. Just return to that prayer again. Because trust is not a destination. It's a daily surrender. And every day you choose to trust, heaven leans a little closer. So, as this moment ends, hold this truth close. The Creator who formed the galaxies also formed your heart. And if He sustains the universe, He will sustain you too. He always has. He always will. Now, live from that peace. Rest in that love. Walk in that trust. And if this reflection spoke to your heart today, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded. They're not alone in their worry, and their Creator is still in control. Because every time you choose to trust, every time you give your anxieties to God, you are declaring something powerful to the world, that peace is real, that hope is alive, and that your Creator, the one who began the story, is still writing it beautifully, one day at a time.